Welcome to our playoff coverage here on the fourth period, presented to you by CCM. That's Dennis Bernstein and Aaron Ward. I am Dave Pagnotta. And boys, let's dive right into this one here. The Winnipeg Jets hosting the Colorado Avalanche in what is expected to be one heck of a round one matchup for these two clubs. No Jonathan Drouin for the Avalanche. And Wardo, the Jets coming into this one with a little bit of added motivation thanks to Ryan Whitney after he put out there on Spit and Chicklets that a lot of people consider, in the league anyway, a lot of people considering the Jets to be frauds. They're using that as ammo.
It's a pretty harsh word to use for a team that has the best overall save percentage over the regular season and best goals against over the regular season. So they got to be doing something right. And stylistically, the way they play the game lends itself very well to the playoffs. Now, Colorado being the number one in the National League in goals for sets up well for, two powerful ways to dictate the way the game is going to be played. I would never go that route of calling a team a fraud. That clearly set a standard from the start of the season by being highly competitive and leading more or less the Western Conference for a while. Team goes out, realizes they're in a good position, goes out and gets Monahan and Toffoli to further reinforce what stylistically this team needs to be. If you look at the past champions of Vegas and Tampa and St. Louis, where 1 through 4, they're just deep. So that exists. And here's the other problem. You can't call a team a fraud or be fraudulent when you have Connor Hellebuck back there. That, for me, is the ultimate litmus test when I start to evaluate where the power lies in a series. It's goaltending. You have to fall back on a game stealer. And Hellebuck, has proven himself over and over and over to be the best goalie in the entire world. So I would, if I'm Winnipeg, I'm harnessing the underdog mentality, and I'm also taking all the criticism and telling them all where to shove it at the end of the series.
Okay, so if the Jets are frauds, all right, then what's a team that gave up 7 goals at home to Dallas and to Winnipeg? What are they? That's the Colorado Avalanche right now. It's the best goalie in the playoffs against the worst goalie in the playoffs, a team that is not playing well defensively, that's missing Jonathan Drouin, who has had great chemistry with Nathan MacKinnon. I don't even know how the Jets are underdogs. I guess it's the reputation of Colorado, but if you watch them play down the stretch, Dave, they should be the underdogs, and I think they'll lose the series.
I'm most interested to see how Colorado approaches this from the drop of the puck, because it's not a comfortable feeling. And I went through it in 2006 when Gerber had the flu. We had great goaltending, but Gerber had the flu, and we knew he was deficient. We didn't play. We played timid. We played on our heels. And Colorado right now, like Georgiev coming into the playoffs for me, is the reason that Colorado is not going to win. He's going to cost them. And that's why when I make the pick, I'm looking at the goaltending going, Georgiev has got to be in the minds of his teammates thinking, we have to sit back. We have to help. We can't play on our front toes. We can't be aggressive because we got to cover up.
Yeah, and they're going to certainly need guys like Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen to step up and elevate their games even more going into this one against the Winnipeg Jets. Puck drop at 7 o'clock Eastern in this one. And then later on, gentlemen, we've got two familiar teams. We haven't seen this before, have we? The Edmonton Oilers hosting the LA Kings 3 years in a row now. And DB, you're in Edmonton right now. You'll be covering this series back and forth. Do the Kings have a hope here? How do you lay this one out?
Okay, so it was the third time the charm? I don't know. Look, last season in the playoffs, the Edmonton power play destroyed the Kings. Right? I think they converted the entire playoffs over 42%. They're not that good this year, right? And the theory is it's really difficult to beat a team 3 times in a row in the playoffs. It is. It's just statistically it's very hard to do, but rightfully so, Edmonton is the favorites because they have Connor, they have Leon. Zach Hyman's had an amazing season. Do I give the Kings a chance? A puncher's chance, right? But I think at the end of the day, you're looking at a repeat of the first 2 playoff rounds, like a 6 or a 7 game series. It'll be tough. It'll be contentious. But unless they get emergence from one guy, and this is the guy that they traded for. This is the guy that they said game 83 would count. Pierre-Luc Dubois had an awful season in Los Angeles. Awful. Like really underperformed. But they said, there's still something in him. Like we still believe he's got it in him. We need to pull it out of him. It got to start with game 1. He has to be the X factor for the Kings in the series if they plan to win the series.
The other thing you have to consider too is, so Edmonton's number 2 power play, and LA's got the number 2 penalty kill, so it's a wash. Also consider the fact that this is the playoffs now, and there will be, in my estimation, a McDavid factor where you'll want the skill guy like he is, the ultimate player in the National Hockey League, still have time and space to do his thing, but the whistle does effectively go away. So for me, for LA's got to create some doubt in Edmonton's mind, right? So there's no clear matchup favorite. In fact, if I was give it at anybody, I'd give it to LA and net. I think you have to maximize the defensive deficiencies that exist in Edmonton if you're the LA Kings, and that is forcing Ceci, forcing Kulak, forcing Desharnais to be impactful players, and you can make them negatively impactful players. So I think LA's just got to play cautious in terms of let the game start, let Edmonton get in their own minds. And again, go back to wondering, what are you going to get in the playoffs? Because what has failed them in the past has been goaltending. Defensively overall, they've been a dumpster fire for a while. But I think they've resolved how to play these games. I think that LA just has to look at playing patient and playing stylistically the way they want. Again, McDavid, Hyman, Draisaitl, they have good series. LA's on vacation.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be tough. Evander Kane dealing with what appears to be, I guess, a sports hernia. Or the development of one, that's going to affect their depth, because Edmonton has one thing they've been able to utilize this season more so, especially in the second half, has been their depth. Their bottom 6 has contributed in certain fashions throughout the stretch run going into the postseason. So to not have one particular weapon who brings both offensive prowess and physicality in Evander Kane, that might be a little bit to LA's advantage, Wardo.
Yeah, I don't look at what he contributes offensively. I think about the role in the playoffs. You need guys like this. Not everybody's going to be a John Bruce that come out of nowhere and score massive, 15 games and 14 goals. So for me, Kane has to recognize where his value is, given all the talent in Edmonton. He is a forceful irritant on the ice. He's a veteran player, understands his role. He's going to go in. He's going to make LA have their head up, both between the whistles, physically in the corner, and after the whistle in that front, trying to draw guys like Doughty and get them off their game. That absence, LA should feel slightly more comfortable about how they match up against Edmonton currently.
DB, just quick. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Jump in on that.
I was going to say, to the bottom 6, discussing that, remember last year in the postseason, who was big for the Oilers last year? Remember Klim Kostin wasn't on the team anymore? Got big goals. The series deciding goal was by Kailer Yamamoto. So their bottom 6 hurt them last year. The Edmonton Oilers produced. Now, if they do it again, because now you've got Corey Perry, you've got Kane, and I agree with Wardo. It's not necessarily the production, it's the stirring in front of the net, it's the physicality. That's going to be a key for the Edmonton Oilers as well.
And Montreal, too, those depth players. Corey Perry played a key role in why Montreal actually made the Stanley Cup Finals during the bubble years, because he's a veteran guy, understands his role, and man, is he effective in the playoffs. Because again, we go back to, you're less likely to want to punish a team for a face rub than you are in the regular season.
The Kings have a bit of a pest themselves in Victor Arvidsson, DB. Are they going to look to him to provide more of that energy and that spark in this series to just, as Wardo said, stir the pot here?
Yeah, he missed almost 60 games this year, Dave. They're a different team offensively with him in the lineup. He's a playmaker. He hasn't met a shot he doesn't like. He shoots the puck. He has a puck-shooting mentality. He makes them definitely. He makes their power play better, right? And his presence also allows now Quentin Byfield until game 82, where he cashed in $400,000 worth of bonus money for getting a goal and assist. Byfield's now down on the bottom 6. He's actually being paired right now with Dubois, which might help them with respect to lengthening the lineup. So, they're a different team offensively with Arvidsson. He's going to have to produce, because remember last season, you had guys like Iafallo and Velarde in that series against Edmonton. They were productive. Now they're in Winnipeg trying to beat the Colorado Avalanche. So they're going to need to have a production and just a mentality that Victor Arvidsson brings to the ice every night.
Same thing with Arvidsson. He doesn't have 60 games in his legs, which is an added bonus. You got a guy relatively fresh coming in that's an impactful player.
It's going to be interesting, certainly, this series. I think we've all picked the Edmonton Oilers to come out on top. But, gentlemen, if this somehow goes 7, I might be tilting in LA's way, because I don't think that's anything the Oilers want to deal with in this series. That's Aaron Ward and Dennis Bernstein in Edmonton. I'm Dave Pagnotta. Our continued coverage here of the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs on TFP.